after a few days in Nashville. Brendan Martin, I never seen anybody like him in my life. You talk about the smartest guy. That's the guy right there. Wait, it's right there. Brendan Martin, executive producer. Nobody going to outwork this guy. I absolutely love him. Audrey and I were talking about him last night with some people and said, he is elite. You're either elite or you're not, Kirby says. This guy's
you
elite.
know what?
We've been through the last few days, Brendan. You get the Heisman Trophy.
Well, I'm going to give a shout out. I give travel teams and travel soccer and all that stuff a hard time. And I'm not going to go on a big diatribe with this week. But this weekend, Stella Martin, my daughter, emerged as a player, as a soccer player, as a teammate. She did some things that are unwritten in the rules of sport. When your teammate gets roughed up by somebody else, and you got to go play a little bit of a, I don't know how to put, an enforcer, and stand up for somebody, that changes your mentality and all that stuff. Well, in the end of it all, Stella Martin emerged as a teammate, as a player, and that team won 4-0, and they brought home the trophy. They are the champions, and they won their tournament this week. And I want to say congratulations to Premier Soccer, Ocala Premier Soccer Girls won the tournament this last week. Congrats to those girls. An awesome thing. Took 4 years to return, and we're very proud of them. Very proud of my daughter. So thank you, team sports.
That's right. Now, look, I mean, you're going to face a lot of adversity in your life. If you're a fan of a SEC school, it's every day, every night. Do us a favor. Hey, all my friends that watch this show, get in these chat rooms, okay? Texting me during the show, I can't see those, and I've got to stay focused. Take a picture.
I'm going to find all their numbers, Rob. I'm going to call them all.
Right.
I'm going to start. I mean, you think you're safe? I will absolutely.
And he can find you. I'm just telling you.
I'll robo-dial you. Yeah. The whole show.
We'll do it. And look, take a picture with the QR code. We're live on Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube. Lot to cover today. We've got Coach Matt Dean over in Memphis. John Hartwell, the athletic director now, coaching search. He'll be with us. Dave Bartoo, college football matrix, checks back in from Oregon. He's feeling better. He'll be feeling his groove. I know that. Look at him. He's smiling, and he's got an OSU Beavers hat on. Matt, we're going to have the Civil War on Thursday's edition of Sidelines. Look here, Dave, this is John Hartwell, long time been an athletic director in athletic administration. We're having fun today. What a week we have had. It's just crazy. The internet, all this stuff happening. What do you do when you're going through hell? You keep going. You shoot a 650-pound elk in the wilderness in your Dave Bartoo, you dress it, and you pull her and you backpack her on out. Don't you, Dave?
That's especially when you're hunting solo, baby. Man, 4 or 5 miles from the truck, and it's a lot of trips to get that out of the mountains.
Yeah, as they say down south.
There's a whole lot of animals interested in what you got in your hand dragging across. Yeah. A few bears might want to know what's going on. Good morning, John Hartwell. Good morning, Matt Dean.
Hey, Brendan. Hey, congrats to your daughter, too. And it sounds like she may have been the hammer or the enforcer there a little bit for protecting her teammates.
I tell you what, man, you teach it, right? You teach it, but you don't teach it, right? You teach to be, sport. And my daughter's the sweetest girl ever, but a gal had just taken a little bit of a swipe at one of her teammates, and she came in there. I'll let you know that girl was ineffective after she picked herself up off the grass.
Yeah, combat ineffective.
Hey, man, that's a daddy's girl right there. That's my girl, right?
Well, that's right. You got to have you got to protect your teammates. There's nothing like it. Dave Bartoo, we have all been watching a lot of college football. I go by the text during a typical Auburn game, Dave. I get 400 or 500 texts from Auburn fans. Now they're single digits. It's down to crickets. It's kind of the landscape, the numbers of college football. Throw some red meat out there, and we'll get cranked up on this Thursday, October 23rd of 25.
Throw some red meat out there. Oh, my goodness. Why? You need some Auburn Tiger fans to get a little bit more riled up?
I mean, of course.
Oh, man. I mean, you're talking about a guy who can make any number look positive or negative for people, So it's probably the most frustrating thing if you're an Auburn Tiger, if you look at the numbers, and you know me, that the most important number during the season is scoring efficiency, offense and defense. It's a scoreboard. It's never a yards board, so I'm never looking at yards. It doesn't matter. But you look at the scoreboard and you look at scoring efficiency, and that is the single most important number. Then you adjust it for opponent. Auburn right now defensively, opponent adjusted defense is 15th in the country. Okay, wow. 15th in the country. Right there. I mean, it is a couple clicks away from Notre Dame. It's a couple clicks away from Alabama. It's right there with Georgia. I mean, Georgia and Auburn's defense year to date, adjusted for opponents, is essentially the same number. That is DJ Durkin's doing an unbelievable job. But on the flip side, everybody's going, okay, Dave, give it to me. Give it to me. Is you got the very opposite direction when it comes down offensively. And look, I'm not an X's and O's guy.
Yeah.
But every time I turn on Auburn, the quarterback can't play.
Yeah.
I don't know what it is. But the quarterback can't play. And so you go opponent adjusted offense, and that is all the way down at 61. Yeah. Okay. Faced a lot of tough defenses. I know a lot of Auburn fans are probably going, no, it's worse than that. The raw number is much worse than that. But adjusted for the defenses you have faced, it's 62nd. I think this is one of the harsh realities in the SEC, is that when you have 10 top 25 recruiters, all of them with polls at them because of the portal and NIL, the level playing field is kind of ugly. And those elite teams that are great on both sides of the ball, you don't have them anymore. You don't have one right now, and I don't see one going forward. So, you know, even though you're an Auburn fan, misery loves company. Wait till you go to 9 games next year. There's going to be a lot of people that are in the middle of October, end of October, going, dude, 500 sucks.
Yeah,
that is going to be the reality of it.
Yeah. Well, Dave, let me tell you something. Matt Dean said for Halloween this year, he's going dressed as a 9-game SEC schedule. Matt jump in here.
I love that.
Hey, Dave, I wore this shirt in honor of you, and you come out with the OSU hat, which I understand. We're all good on that. But
hang on.
Okay, come on.
I can fix that.
Where'd he go?
I'll wait for him to reappear in my TV.
Why does he look like he's in a Motel 6?
Hey,
no, I'm in my weight room. I'm in my weight room.
Right. There we go. There we go. Hey, in honor of the Grateful Dead Ducks this weekend.
Yes.
There we go.
Right?
Is that the hook game behind you? The ring toss game and the hook connected to the wall. There's a hook. It looks like the ring toss game.
No, it's
like your weight rack.
It's the exercise room. You know, the treadmill's right here, the rowing machine's right here, the weights are right here, the TV's right here. This just happens to be a little desk where I can sit down and get the hell away from everybody in the house.
It looks like is the whole thing painted green and gold inside. It looks like the whole weight room is probably like that. So
I love it.
Fantastic.
Hey, here's what I want. I want some of whatever kind of coffee that Dave's drinking, because I realize and I applaud him. It's 6 a.m. out on the West Coast, and he's rocking and rolling.
He's a warrior. I love him.
Dude.
Game time is game time.
That's right. All right, guys, John, you heard those adjusted numbers in the SEC, and we're going and talk. Dave talks a lot about the 9-game schedule next year. That is going to be a kick in the swimsuit area to everybody. Does everybody know what's coming? I mean, Dave has put it in the vernacular quite well.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be a grind, and you know we've talked a little bit about this from an overall scheduling thing. There's 2 points I want to make to the comments you just made. First one, scheduling. What's going to get pitched out here, especially in the leagues like the SEC, where they say, hey, you've got 9 conference games. You've got to play one of those other 3 against a Power 4 opponent.
Yeah.
Most everybody is going to play an FCS game, a cupcake layup, whatever you want to call it.
Mm-hmm.
So really, you're left with one game. And as we talk about the divide financially, the group of fives, group of sixes are going to get further squeezed with that, because and a lot of times people used to play 2 money games. Now they're probably just going to play 1 money game. So you're going to see a squeeze there with that. The other thing I wanted to mention, and Dave's numbers, I love the numbers analysis. I go back to my CPA days, and it kind of helps me geek out some. I love it. But when you talk about Auburn specifically, and they're not the only team that this is occurring on, we talk all the time about team chemistry and everybody on that team pulling on the same end of the rope. When you have one side of the ball that appears to be doing their job and another side of the ball that's really not, it's tough as hell for a head coach to keep not only the locker room with your players, but, I've been in this business long enough. Also, the coaching staffs get a little bit chippy. It's like, when the hell are y'all going to score us some points? We are doing our job. When the hell are y'all going to score some points? And being able to manage that in the locker room and on the field is really a challenge. And again, it erodes team chemistry if it's not handled well.
Dave, that being said, you look at some of the other coaching jobs. Napier's gone at Florida. You don't know what they can salvage, but you're look around the league. I mean, there's stories everywhere.
Well, yeah, and again, the reset button's even harder than it's been before, because not only you're losing the whole staff, you're basically giving up the roster, and you could be giving up years. You think it's bad now? Wait for the next couple of years, and so I know on the flip side, people could say, hey, if we get lucky, we can rebuild a whole roster in the portal. But now you got that pig moving through the python. And that one crashes out too. We've seen it over and over. We saw Mel Tucker try that at Michigan State. Yeah, he had one good year and then fired because, there was no continuity there. And we see it time and time again. So, and now that everybody is more aware of what's going on and more players are getting scouted, it's hard to have that instant impact that the portal had, let's say, for a Missouri or an Ole Miss 4 years ago. Those days are gone. And it is, and then in the SEC, you look at these jobs, and like we just talked about, guys are getting fired, and the schedule's getting harder, not easier. And the expectations, you look at Florida, the expectations, they've won 2 national titles, one with one of the greatest offensive minds we've ever had in college football, and the other one with a guy who had massive recruiting concessions versus academics compared to the norm. Outside of that, it's not a national championship program, but it has that kind of expectation. So, man, the SEC jobs that come open, no matter which ones they are, the ratio of expectations towards plausible record is the worst in the country. So at least these guys are getting paid for the misery y'all are putting them through as fans.
Yeah, Matt, that being said, you look around the SEC. Kalen DeBoer, there was no overreaction on the part of the Alabama fan base after the Florida State loss, other than a complete psych meltdown. Like the guy I saw in the Cove, this bar. Never go into a bar that doesn't have any windows. It's called the Cove up in Drummond's, Tennessee. I was up there one time, and my buddy and I were up at the bar, and this guy starts walking toward us. I'm not kidding you. He had on a hoodie that said Alcatraz Psychiatric Unit. You know what the bartender said to us? Don't look him in the eye. Don't engage in conversation with him. It's crazy what we're dealing with fan, because they're looking at, you're an administrator, Matt. Your son's on the staff at Oregon. Look at the expectations there. Look at Alabama, at Arkansas, at Auburn, and Florida. Just looking at 4 teams right there. What are the expectations there that they weren't 5-10 years ago? They're not changing, are they?
No, and I talked to my son about this a lot, and I think the big word they use in their building a lot is retention. They, a lot of times you see where programs may be involved with 2 or 3 5-stars, and they may lose out to an SEC school regardless, and everyone thinks they have a lot of money, which they do. But you still got to pay the current guys in your locker room. And I think what really What's really hard is when you come in and try to rebuild a program, no matter what the history. And with Florida, the multiple national championships, it's hard. But the reality is, if you want to keep some of the better players in there, you got to pay those guys back. And that's like I look at a wide receiver like Dallas Wilson. He is a stud. That would be one of my biggest priorities if I was the head coach at Florida, is retaining some of my better players. And it's easier said than done. But retention, the model that they've been using is probably 18 to 21 high school recruits annually, probably 10 to 12 portal additions, but you got to hit on them. It was ironic. Dave, I saw a ranking. I know you're a big numbers guy. I saw a ranking of portal classes, and they had Florida State at number 6. Well, after week 1, you probably would agree with that model, but as the numbers play out, it really hasn't happened. And I'd also be curious, Dave, of your numbers on Vandy, because obviously their offense efficiency has to be high, but I've been really impressed with how their defense keeps them in football games, and I really thought they did a fantastic job this past week in their win against LSU.
They did a great job in their win against LSU. And as far as my numbers go, going back to the raw numbers, Vanderbilt's the most efficient offense in the country.
Wow.
The most efficient.
What about their defense?
And let me set straight to everybody listening how important it is. This is why scoring efficiency has always been so important to me. If you take the way I calculate it, and if you take the end of the regular season, no championship games, no playoff, just go to the end of the regular season, and if you take the top 3 teams, top 3 offenses, top 3 defenses, not 5, not top 10, top 3, and you take the top 3 offenses and defenses for the last 26 years, this entire century, every single one of your national champions is in that group. Every single one of them. So right now, if the season ended, you look at this, top 3 offensively, Vanderbilt, USC, Cincinnati. There's another team, Cincinnati, Satterfield out there, doing a hell of a job this year that nobody's talking about. And then on the flip side, defensively, Texas, and we're not betting on Texas with that offense. Oklahoma, not betting on Oklahoma with that offense. And by far and away, the most elite unit on the field by a country mile is Ohio State.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. John Hartwell, looking at Georgia, Kentucky, LSU, Ole Miss, the next 4 on this list, what do you see advantages, disadvantages at any of those schools that with a 9-game schedule could be better for them? Or thank you, sir, may I have another? Pow, right in the swimsuit area.
Yeah. Did you say Kentucky, Rob? Did I hear that correctly?
Yes, that was. I'm going from top to bottom. Alabama, Arkansas, Auburn, Florida, and then Georgia, Kentucky, LSU, and Ole Miss.
All you need to know about Kentucky, and I say this, a little bit tongue in cheek, but really not. They are spending $22 million a year on their men's basketball roster and NIL. Right. What do you think is king in the Bluegrass State? I mean, that's all you got to say right there. And I mean, I'll say this: we talked a little bit. Is Stoops return to Kentucky? He's got. I think his buyout is somewhere north of $50 million. But the even more important component of that, it's 100% payable within 60 days. So I mean, unless they negotiate something with him, I don't see him stepping aside. But I was a little surprised to hear them in that group.
Yeah, well, I'm just going down the list on the scale.
But I'll say this, and this pulls it back in timely to this week's games. Ole Miss and Oklahoma this weekend may be the best game on the docket this weekend. And it will be interesting to see, as Dave talked about, elite defense from an Oklahoma standpoint to obviously you've got Lane calling the plays on offense. That's going to be a tough game. I think I'm leaning towards the home team. I know Ole Miss gave a battle last week between the Hedges and Athens, but I think I've got to lean despite all my ties to the Rebels, I got to lean Oklahoma this weekend in that game because of the eliteness of that defense.
Yeah, it's going to be fun. You know, last night, John, before you and I were talking, I had a call from Barry Switzer, a former Oklahoma coach. Y'all remember him. He'll be on the show with us tomorrow on the Friday College Roundtable. He goes, yeah, I'll do it. He goes, is it video? I go, yes, sir. He goes, I don't have a laptop. I go, he goes, but I've got a computer on my desk. And I said, well, that's the same thing, you know. So he's going to be on with us tomorrow. That is going to be fun. He gave me one.
Can I call in and ask what the NIL deal was for Marcus Dupree?
No. I'm so looking forward to this with Barry Switzer.
Can I make a request that we try to get Mr. Switzer on before the show starts, since he only knows that there's a computer that sits on his desk?
No, he was just saying that he goes, I don't have a laptop. He goes, I have a desktop. I said, same thing.
Rob, you said same thing. I don't think you know the difference, so I'm just going to try to say right there.
Yeah,
we have to make sure that the desktop has the camera.
Yes, that's right. I will make sure.
Not every desktop has a camera, sir.
We've had some of our guests over the years where you get a good shot of the ear or the nostrils, or you're like,
this may not even have a camera, so that's what we're saying. So
he said he could use his phone too. So I said, I think maybe just use his phone, but looking forward to it.
My stress level is going like
this. Yeah, and I know. I'm going to get him to call in early. All right.
Thank you, Rob.
Looking at here, I definitely will do that. I told him that, but that's going to be so much fun. But you look at those teams I just mentioned, Georgia, Kentucky, LSU, and Ole Miss. And Dave, you look at the LSU job, Brian Kelly. You know, we saw him on the Netflix thing, Any Given Saturday. Why not just get Al Pacino on there and just let him give the speech in the locker room, you know, before the game? That's one of the greatest ever. But what's going on at LSU, Brian? I mean, Dave, you're not Brian Kelly, but about Brian Kelly.
To me, outside of the intangibles, you know, the stuff with the angst, the culture behind the curtain that we can't see. What I see on paper is a constant struggle to find and plug in the staffing. You know, and as you know, Rob, that's what I've been doing for 10 years. I've been helping athletic directors be a piece of the puzzle in head coach searches, and I've worked with a lot of head coaches and GMs in college football and the NFL. Build staff with our analytics to go back 15 years on every coach in football. But you look at his numbers. Now, I haven't been on this show very long, but a couple of years ago, if you'd had me on, I would have told you that coming into the 2023 season, LSU had the second lowest graded defensive staff in the SEC. And what did they go out there and do? They dropped the second worst scoring efficiency number in the SEC. And then they made the changes and brought in Baker from Missouri and revamped that whole defensive side of the football. And it took 2 years. And now they have a top 10 scoring efficiency defense. It's awesome. And that's where they should be. When a school produces the third most NFL starts in the last decade on both sides of the football, you're a national championship level talent every single year. So the only question is coaching. And Brian has always struggled with that. At Cincinnati, it took a while. At Notre Dame, it took a while to blend all the pieces in. At LSU, it's taking too long. And he made really good moves with Baker, and that's turned out obviously very well. But when he lost Denbrook back to Notre Dame, a 4.5-star career graded offensive coordinator, he did one of the things that I hate most for big schools, and he said, next man up. And when you have, and I don't care if you're LSU or Texas or Ohio State or any of these guys, next man up, to me, the best guy available, which you have the money for, is never the next man up, in my opinion. I just don't see it. And it drives me nuts because I saw next man up at Oregon after Chip left. They went next man up until everybody got fired. So that part of it kind of drives me nuts. But then you go the offensive side of it. He promoted Joe Sloan, which in our numbers, you know, and this is relative to all offensive coordinators in college football over the last 15 years, he was below average. And below average coaches don't win national titles. So LSU went from, okay, we got a decent defensive staff. Now we have a poor offensive staff. And he's not making changes. All the head coaches that I work with, the best ones, they identify the problem, make the change. Because one bad coach can sink your season, one bad season sinks your career or your job. So to me, at LSU, It is definitely, at least on paper, what I can see, it is a 100% staffing problem relative to everybody else in the SEC.
Yeah, and then Kevin Skarbinski was talking with us this week on the show. Possibility Coach O could be moving to the Magic City and go head coach at UAB. That would be entertaining. At least it'd be entertaining.
UAB wants to keep losing.
Yeah, I didn't see the vote of confidence there.
Well, Matt, then Dave, then who's going to be? Billy Gonzalez is not going to be the head coach of the University of Florida. So can we discuss this now that Dave's on and he's feeling good? By the way, I'm glad you're feeling better at like 106 temperature. Rob kept saying, Rob kept telling me it was like 110. I think each day it got a little higher. So I'm glad you're alive. But tell me about, since this is your wheelhouse, like, what do you do now at Florida? Is it Lane Kiffin? Talk to me with the numbers.
Okay, so now that we're getting into specific jobs that are open, let me caveat that a lot of these questions for a lot of these schools, I have to dance around contractually, okay, because I work for a lot of these guys. But when it comes down to Florida, and with a lot of big schools, I think one of the things that that fans don't understand, that you need to understand, is there's a lot of boosters with a lot of big checks that can actually demand more than people understand, because boosters will withhold huge donations if they don't get their guy, right? Or if the AD hires a guy that a big booster doesn't like coming in, they'll stop sending money until that guy's gone. Yep. So there's a lot of tail wagging the dog out there. But again, with Florida, wonderful brand, no real issue, money-wise, a great history. It's a great place to be. But again, it's a very, very hard job. And, now you have James Franklin on the market. I don't know if you have Lane on there. I haven't looked publicly at the contracts, and you got your who's, you got your Drinkowitz and so forth. I think it's going to be somebody clearly that has been a head coach of a Power Four somewhere, taking that over. You don't find an athletic director or a school in general repeating what they fired. So Billy came from the group of six. So I think we scratched that off. I don't think we're looking at an elite OC or an elite DC taking over that's never been a head coach before. So I think that narrows the list to high-performing head coaches for that specific position.
Yeah, Matt, an administrator's
that was
side.
A very political answer, by the way.
Well, it's a great answer.
Great answer. He told me nothing. So is he coming or not? I mean, it's Lane Kiffin. I mean, come on. Is it possible? Because that is what everyone around my parts is like. Lane's coming. He's a Spurrier guy. This is his chance. This is the chance to go up to the next level. Take off your work hat, or just give me Mr. Bartoo's hat.
Oh, we love the
bam. I like that.
Yeah. There you go.
The thing with Lane that I have heard from, and this isn't particular to Florida, Brendan, and you're not getting anything out of me on any of the jobs I work with, so just shut up about it already. But I can still tell stories around it. But the thing with Lane that I've heard from a lot of, one athletic director really opened my eyes one day when I was sitting down with him on a coach search. And it was wonderful insight. And it wasn't specifically about Lane, but it was about coaching behavior. And an athletic director, when they're hiring a head coach, it's basically you're babysitting the whole football staff, right? And you're just trying to keep these guys between the ditches. And how much energy do you have to put into managing a head coach? And the difficulty that I've always heard with Lane is that in spite of his results and being a great offensive coordinator and play caller and being able to, he's a good staffer, he handles the roster well, but he is a 24/7, 365 coach for an athletic director, right? And so, and I know a lot of fans would be going, Dave, you're nuts. You just get the best guy available. You're not sitting in that chair. It's easy to write checks when it's somebody else's money. It's easy to make decisions when you don't have the responsibility for keeping a staff between the ditches all the time. And so I think the toughest thing with Lane is that you got to be up every hour of the day, not knowing what's going to happen. That's the trade-off there. But the big question is, you know, again, is that somewhere where he wants to go? I think anyone in the SEC would be happy from a fan base to get him because he's exciting, he's gregarious, he operates with at least a little bit more transparency language-wise than a lot of other coaches. But again, Lane is a tough nut to handle when it comes to getting him inside your athletic department.
Yeah, Matt.
Well, John Hartwell used to be a director. John, what do you have to say about that? Let's go down the line. We got assistant coach.
Yeah,
I mean,
and I think it's really important to look at the context in which Lane was hired at Ole Miss. And obviously, I spent 10 years there. Know Keith Carter well. All of those components. Was it a risk when Ole Miss hired Lane Kiffin? Absolutely. Yeah. Was it a situation, though, where Ole Miss was on the backside of making a change from Hugh Freeze to hiring a favorite son who played there, Matt Luke, great guy. You would not hear a person say a negative thing about Matt Luke. Just didn't win enough for Ole Miss expectations. And you go to Lane Kiffin. The situation with Scott Strickland in Florida is definitely different. I mean, yes, there has not been a national championship train in Gainesville the last 10 years. But, you know, and for all intents and purposes, everything you can see on the surface, and I don't know any different. Lane has changed his lifestyle. He is probably much less of a risk today than he was when Keith hired him at Ole Miss. But again, you've got to weigh, as an athletic director, as an institution, you know, you worry about the football program brand, you worry about the athletic department brand, you worry about the university brand, and look at the pros, look at the cons. Is it worthwhile? I'm not here to judge it one way or the other. Obviously, he's had tremendous success at Ole Miss. But I'll go the flip side too. If you're Lane Kiffin or you're Jimmy Sexton negotiating for Lane Kiffin, Ole Miss, my understanding is they're in the process right now. There are talks going on to renegotiate his deal. You know, what is that number? Yes, historically, everything else, Florida is a better job, but is it a better job today than Ole Miss is? Probably a little easier to recruit to Gainesville than it is to Oxford, but what they've done with the Grove Collective and things like that, it's so it's not just a slam dunk either way. I think there are questions to be had, but clearly there are enough pieces of the puzzle and enough characteristics, both from an institution standpoint and an individual standpoint for Lane, that I think those he is clearly in the mix.
Yeah, Matt, your position as
you're a coach, Matt. Like, you know, yeah, if you're a coach, Matt, like, talk about how do you feel if you're Lane Kiffin right now?
I mean, I'm curious, Matt, because you've got a son on a staff. He's also been on Jimbo's staff, and Jimbo's name has been floated around. Should Auburn make a change because some big boosters like him?
Well, I'll tell you something interesting I thought of this weekend, Dave. I'm watching the Ole Miss game, and first 5 drives are touchdowns. Yeah. For 3 quarters, Georgia couldn't get Ole Miss off the field. Okay? Yeah. The result, a touchdown. I am so impressed with the in-game adjustments that Kirby Smart does. I mean, he won a shootout at Tennessee on the road. Quite frankly, a kicker missed the field goal that would have beat them. Auburn was dominating that game before a horrible call. But in the second half, that momentum switched, and they couldn't sniff the red zone, basically. This past weekend in the fourth quarter, he was 3 for 3 for stops. Gunnar Stockton, to me, and I know everyone's talking about Ty Simpson. What a great story Gunnar Stockton has been. I don't know what his numbers play out, Dave, but he's got the it factor to me. I know he doesn't have a ton of college starts, so we look at that metric a lot. One of the things I told people on this show back in July, my gut said Dante Moore is going to develop into a great quarterback. He's only had, I think, 5 at UCLA now. This will be his 8th at Oregon, 13 college starts. So I knew a game like he had against Indiana was coming at some point in the schedule. And I just think coaching matters so much in-game as well. I think Lane is the most elite play caller we got right now. And I think from a coaching perspective, I've only made one change in my career, but it's all been about family. And now that Lane seems to have, I heard this, I think, on a show you guys did this last week. I mean, I think he's got his brother living right next to him on a different property.
His wife is back in town.
Yeah, guys, I mean, Ole Miss is going to give him what he wants. It's going to come down to does Lane want the challenge of going down there? And let's be honest. I mean, expectations were high at Ole Miss, John, but they're not going to be what they're at Florida. I mean, expectations eats at you inside as a coach. I promise you, Saturday night was not great for Lane after losing the game the way he did in that fourth quarter. Mm-hmm. I mean, they were dominating Georgia offensively, and then they went 0 for 3 when it mattered, and they lose a game. Yeah. And this weekend, you're going against probably one of the most elite defenses, play caller-wise, Venables, and you're looking at I watched that South Carolina game. South Carolina couldn't even get first downs, guys. Yeah. It was just, I mean, I look at South Carolina last year, and this year, Dave, it's unbelievable the difference in that offense. And I don't know if there's been a staffing change, but I mean, everyone was talking about Sellers as a top 5 pick. Man, I just right now, I just don't see it.
Dave, I got to ask you right now, you were all summer long, I feel like Kid Rock song, all summer long. You were talking about Arch Manning. I mean, if his name was Saul Rosenberg, he would not have been projected to go to the Heisman Trophy if we never heard. I mean, and you talked about, and nobody paid attention in the general public, but we did on this show. You got to replace 4 starters on the offensive line. Sark's history of underperforming the talent, and a new term that I use daily, elevators. People that elevate everybody around them in the locker room and get their play up to another level. That being said, Eli Drinkowitz, man, what he's doing up at Missouri and all, talk about that job.
Yeah, he's done an amazing job, man. There's a lot to unpack there. I got to say, before I try to answer that question, I loved listening to Hartwell talk about it from his point of view.
Me too.
Anybody watching the show, go back and just rewind right now and listen to what he said and listen to what Matt said. That was some really, I loved that. That was some smart inside football that you don't really get in a lot of places like that. So
no, because right down the line, you've got the numbers, you've got the AD, you've got the coaching perspective, and awesome. I just wanted to finish out and just real quick, not any sort of drama, but Dave, are you a yes or a no on a Lane Kiffin hire with just based off of what you said?
Well, yeah, even to add on to that, we'll get to Missouri in a second, though. The other thing, though, the only thing that I thought of, too, is situationally, because John brought up a great scene of the situation that Ole Miss was in to acquire Lane Kiffin. But this ties back into what we talked about at the beginning, 9-game schedule. Ole Miss and Missouri have been in a wonderful scheduling window the last 4 years to win a lot of football games. That window going away next year. So Ole Miss and Missouri, both Drinkowitz and Kiffin, it is going to be significantly harder to repeat what they've done in the last 4 years. So if you have a chance to get out on top and go into a place like Florida on the bottom, psychologically, because all coaches know there's a cycle, roller coaster goes up, roller coaster goes down. Is this a good time to get out on top, leave like Elway, and go somewhere else where there's a bottom?
Yes.
right?
No
Just
doubt.
Johnny
psychologically, think about that, fans. But anyways, that was awesome. Missouri-wise, Drinkowitz, you look at his career, he was at App State and did an absolutely wonderful job at App State. You look at the profile and the progression of his numbers at App State, they were very, very good, especially offensively. Now that he's at Missouri, you look at his numbers. The one thing I think that that Eli is really underrated on is staffing. This is a guy that a lot of people don't even remember this name, Ryan Walters. He hired him, basically no experience. Ryan went to Illinois, put up back-to-back top 5 scoring efficiency defenses at Illinois, right? I mean, that's like Brad White at Kentucky level of stupid defense. Then he got promoted to Purdue, took the job, tanked, because everybody but Jeff Brom tanks at Purdue unless you have Drew Brees. And now Ryan is back at Washington. But Eli has been able to recycle and rebuild that staff at a very, very good level. He understands the portal at NIL. He jumped on it earlier than anybody else for the most part. A lot of people complained about it a few years ago. He took advantage of the loophole. So I think from an intelligence standpoint, that's been demonstrated. And then you look overall where he's at right now. Again, total scoring efficiency in the country. 34th overall in the country. I mean, you look at his numbers, Missouri, and his closest one is Texas A&M. So Missouri and A&M's top 5, rated team right now. I'm not buying it. But Eli has done a phenomenal job, not just at Missouri, but wherever he has been. So obviously that guy has got to be on the board of a lot of programs. I mean, if LSU opens up, North Carolina opens up, Eli's going to be on the board of a lot of people in this country.
Yeah. John Hartwell, one name that's definitely floated around out there, people talk about Huntsville, Alabama, Grissom High School grad, John Sumrall. Talk about your relationship with him and your opinion of him as a coach and what his future looks like.
Yeah, I've known John since as I've mentioned on here a couple of times before, I've known him since he was a high school player, really, an all-state high school player at Grissom High School in Huntsville, had a great career at Kentucky, actually didn't get to play his senior year. He was on the Butkus, watch list going into his senior year, had a pinched nerve and some neck problems and did not play as a senior. But his tenacity as a player carried over, to his coaching career. A lot of people don't know that early in his career, he was with the Harbaughs. He was at the University of San Diego. So he's been at all levels, a grinder. I love his sound bites. We talk about Lane's sound bites and the things John Sumrall, in addition to be a hell of a football coach, has got some wit about him too. He's tremendous with the media. He is on the list of all of the SEC, and I would say any Big 12 job that opens. Do I see John in LA or Eugene or someplace like that? Should there be a coaching change? No, not a fit. But I can guarantee you any job in the SEC, he is going to be and should be near the top of the list. He is going to be a high-level SEC coach. Hey, one other thing, guys, as we go back to the comparison, Auburn to Ole Miss, and I wanted to make sure that I was right on this, but don't forget this about Ole Miss. Ole Miss, Kentucky, Vanderbilt. The only 3, what I would say, long-term SEC schools. A&M hasn't been yet either. But those 3 schools have never even been to an SEC championship game since they started playing SEC championships. So, again, when you look at jobs and expectations, Florida, there is an expectation of excellence at the University of Florida, not just in the football program, but across all sports. You look at the changes they've made in coaches. Hey, if you're not making a fairly regular appearance in the opportunity to win an SEC championship, they're moving on. And you got to understand, if you take a job like that.
Well, if you take a job like that and then you are We've lost him. Hopefully he'll come
right
back.
into witness protection.
Yeah.
Oh,
Hey, John, here you are. You're back. You went in the witness protection program briefly, but
he's back.
I was too quick to break. But
theories.
I think what he's saying makes such sense. John, come back in here. You were making great points.
Yeah. Sorry about that. I don't know where it cut off. Somebody was ringing in on my other line.
2 seconds. You were right where you left.
Yeah, high risk. I mean, high reward, but high risk, and the expectations are really high. And at Florida, if you're not in the cycle of playing in an SEC championship game as it relates to football every 3-4 years, you're not meeting expectations.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Florida has been to the SEC championship game other than Alabama, I think, the most. So yeah, there's an expectation. John, Dave, looking at another job, you talk about Texas A&M, Texas. There's more money out there. As Franz Beard always says on the show, only God and the Longhorns have more money than the Aggies. What does that money typically get you? Now, we know there's a lot of money from Phil Knight at Oregon, but you look at the Texas job. There were some people in The Athletic that I respect that collaborated on an article before the season. Is Texas the new Alabama? And I quickly said, no, they're not. As a friend of mine said, there's too many daiquiri bars and too many wild bars and just too weird in Austin to crack down on the 40 acres. They have, I think you can have it too nice, Dave Bartoo, too easy, too soft. And then you can emasculate your culture. You go elk hunting for a week and a half. You go for a week and a half in the wilderness by yourself, Dave. I mean, you are definitely alpha and the omega. But talk about that.
With Texas has always been an enigma for me because on paper, right, the world I deal in, not watching film or anything like that, on paper, this should be a dynasty type of program. They have the money. They've been a top 5 recruiter forever. And for whatever reason, they're constantly getting in their own way, it seems like. So I think with the Texas or any of these large programs that fans go, why aren't we better? It's probably because there's lack of cohesion behind the curtain. So you mentioned Phil Knight. And yes, Phil and his wealth has, other than Clemson, has turned Oregon around and kept them where they're at more than any other program in the country. Yeah. But that's one guy. There's just one chef in that kitchen. When you start talking Texas and Texas A&M, there's billionaires everywhere. And behind the curtain, you may have a lot of them trying to be the guy that makes the program, the guy that makes the difference. And so with Texas, you saw with Mac Brown, they just battled demons forever, and Mac finally got him a national title. But as soon as they got to the top, boom, it all crashed just instantly, right? And they're still trying to get that back. And then they hired Sarkisian, and we've talked about this on the show. By the numbers, Sarkisian is an average head coach. Outside of last year, he's underperformed the talent every year of his entire career. Wherever he's coached, Texas, Washington, you name it, it's been a constant underperform of talent. And so you couple that with the inability, I believe, for all the boosters for Texas to get on the same page. I just think that there's some sort of internal fighting, and it's probably the same thing at A&M. There's just too many people trying to be the hero and get credit in their peer group for bringing a national title. And all that does is it doesn't get everybody on the same page, and it just makes it that much harder for a team like A&M or Texas to break through and stay there. But as far as the dynasty goes, that's gone. There is not going to be a team or a program in the next 30 years that could beat any one of those good Alabama or Georgia teams. They're just not going to be as balanced. 10 years ago, SEC, I think, would stomp today's version of the SEC just because of everything that's gone on in the last 4 years.
Yeah, and you look around this league at Tennessee. Tennessee fans are, some of them are frustrated, but they're likely, I think, 9-3, 10-2 this year. the 12-0, yeah, you're right, dynasty, forget about that. And I'm looking just top to bottom, again, the 9-game schedule next year, John, that everybody wanted it. And now here it comes. Be careful what you wish for. I mean, even the oldest profession in the world gets old for the people that are professionals. I mean, they get tired of that too. Your back gets sore.
Yeah, that's true. And I was reading an article this morning. I was trying to look back at it, and I don't want to steal the credit here. This is from a guy who is a marketing professor at Carnegie Mellon, a guy named Tim Derginger, and I'll send this to you guys. The title of it is The NIL Paradox. College football games are closer than ever, but at what cost? But it talks about, everybody thought, hey, the golden rule was going to win out. That the 10 schools, like we talked about, Texas, whoever, they were all going to run away from everybody else. But what the gist of this article is about is, hey, there is enough money in NIL now that kids are making the decision. And here's a stat. I know Dave's obviously a numbers guy, that talks about our study determined that the probability of a 5-star athlete being drafted into the NFL stands at 65.5%. And their point is saying, hey, the difference in a prestige or a long-term player development between elite programs is not really that significant. So now players are driven by maximizing immediate financial opportunity. So they're not all going to 6 or 8 schools. So the gist of it is, hey, you're going to see even more parity. You're not going to see parity between, if you're talking FBS between schools 70 through 135, but at those top level schools, you're going to see more parity and more people shake their head. Like after this past weekend, what happened to these 7 or 8 undefeated teams that lost, and they were, 7, 8, 9, 10-point favorites? I mean, and that's going to continue to happen.
Well, interestingly, you know how many interceptions Gunnar Stockton, who was a 5-star, I think, or high 4 coming out of high school, you know how many interceptions Gunnar has this year? 1. Ty Simpson at Alabama, 1. They both have hung around in the program for a long time. Gunnar has had that relationship with Mike Bobo since he was a kid. And he was committed to South Carolina. And this all came from Jordan Davis Hill, who covers Georgia for us, 247 Sports and the Junkyard Dog podcast. Absolutely love that guy. Great, first class. Dave and Matt, kind of, you look at those numbers, efficiency there. Arch Manning, you're right. Some guys, now I'm not saying Arch is like this, but a lot of these stud quarterbacks were born on third base and think they hit a triple, Dave. And it's hard. I mean, everybody's got players now. Your depth is somewhere else, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. And I think getting back to what John was talking about the parity of college football, I think the next best equation I can come up with is how to figure out how to land the right quarterback. Because all it takes is a Diego Pavia, and boom, you win a bunch of football games. But it is. It's still going to be quarterback driven, no matter what. And I think with everything that we've talked about, what John has talked about, what Matt's talked about, I think one of the things fans can take away from today is that how important continuity is in your program, whether it's player or coaching continuity. And that's something I've been preaching forever. It's kind of an intangible out there that you can't really quantify, but it's very, very important. And so I think your program, whoever you root for, having a program in place, if you have the money, like John just said, your bottom half is never going to have the money to compete with the top half. And so they're going to struggle with continuity all the time. But you look at the 4 teams that were in the playoffs last year, their average number of transfers in the previous year before they got into the semifinals was 7 players each. 7 players each. The top 4 teams last year had an average. There was only 28 guys that transferred in the whole previous year. So there is a lot to be said in terms of continuity, identifying that 2 deep, keeping them around. Same thing with the coaching. And I think the ultimate wild card is if you are trying to bring in a quarterback, whether it's a freshman or a transfer, that's really there's more emphasis on that to me today in terms of impact than anything else before.
Yeah, Matt,
yeah, Dave hits on a great point, and I'm going to use an analogy here. I'm going to talk about Bo Nix for a second, who had an unbelievable fourth quarter for the Broncos, if you follow NFL on Sunday. Okay? So when Bo decided to leave Auburn and go to Oregon, there was some continuity, Dave. Kenny Dillingham was his OC, I believe, his first year at Auburn, right? So he goes there, has a really, really good first year at Oregon. Kenny gets the Arizona State job. And part of the reason that Dante went to UCLA is because Kenny left. He didn't know much about Will Stein. So now, fast forward, Will Stein has done a tremendous job the last 2 years. And Bo Nix has had Kenny Dillingham, Will Stein, and now Sean Payton. And the reason I say Sean Payton, I've always thought Bo Nix had some Drew Brees in him, just from a leadership standpoint, maybe physically, but just a tough dude. And he runs Sean, and he's not afraid to tell Sean Payton, his mind coming off the field either. So I look at continuity as really important to success. And I'll go back to Ty Simpson here in a second. If you look at the model, I think Ty Simpson started maybe the USF game under Saban. They had that one game window and they went back to Jalen Miller, right? What's remarkable about DeBoer is Ty Simpson is doing this. And I was watching Mac Jones the other night play for the 49ers. Mac Jones and Ty Simpson, to me, have some similarities because they're really good at play pass. I mean, Ty throws in tight windows phenomenally, but I'm telling you, it's taken Mac Jones a long time to hit it in the NFL, and now he's with Shanahan. Coaching matters, guys. It matters big time. It matters in retention. And I go back to the defensive coach analogy. I'm just so impressed at Oregon because Dan's ability in that locker room with both sides of the ball, even though he's a defensive guy, those offensive guys love him just as well. And I'm really intrigued, Dave, about this NFL draft because there's going to be some quarterbacks taken really high that I got to believe you're thinking right now, there's no way these guys should be taken as high as they're going to be taken. That's just my initial
Nussmeier.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. For example. Yeah. Right. But I think these guys, they get a bad rap because the NFL scouts draft them, but it really comes down to coaching. Look at how bad it was for Caleb Williams year one with the Bears. Yeah. How bad that offensive coordinator room was. It was terrible. It was absolutely. And now with Ben Johnson there, you're seeing incremental progress.
Yeah. So let me say something real quick. Go ahead, Dave.
Oh no, I was going to back up Matt on this in terms of just look at today. Now Will Stein, we had him graded as a future star coming out of UTSA. So
I didn't know that.
We saw that guy. We saw that guy coming all the way. He's been on our list for a while. But look at your top scoring efficiency offenses right now. You got Vanderbilt. Okay. Now Tim Beck is a 3.5-star offensive coordinator. Don't have a lot of history on him, but he's really good. He's kind of he's up on our list. You got USC, which has a top 3 offensive coordinator, maybe the number 1 total composite offensive coordinator of the last 15 years. Satterfield at Cincinnati, 4-star offensive coordinator. Lane Kiffin, number 5 offense, top 5 offensive coordinator, and I would argue support the argument that he has been the number 1 offensive coordinator the last 5 years. Then you got Will Stein, 4.5 stars. Nebraska. Guess what happened? Matt Rule has his best offensive coordinator of his life. Matt Rule can't hire an offense. Great at defense, never been able to hire an offense. Holgorsen, we got a 4-star offensive coordinator there. And you go down the list. Notre Dame is in the top 10. Guess what? They got a 4.5-star offensive coordinator. Cramsey at Memphis. I mean, you just go, Alabama's right there.
Yeah.
They got there. I wasn't on this show last year. I'd have said Alabama wasn't a national championship contender. because their offensive coordinator was subpar. They get rid of him, boom, the offense is back. And so, the offense and defensive wise, coordinators matter immensely.
Yeah.
At both levels, even Sean Payton, you look at all offensive coordinators we've graded since 2000, he is number 14 in the NFL.
Wow.
Since 2000, right? And so, so Bo has had the benefit of unbelievable coaching. He has unbelievable talent. Don't get me wrong. I think Bo is where he is at, regardless of who coaches him. I am not that big of a believer of coaching guys up. I think they got it or they don't. But that offensive coordinator is key everywhere you go.
Yeah, look, as we run out of time, unfortunately. This is absolutely great stuff. Dave Bartoo, College Football Matrix. John Hartwell, College Sports Solutions. You know what? Matt Dean and Brendan's comments as well. This is some of the best. I'll go back and watch these shows and tape them, and I pause and I take notes because, as John, you're hearing the gospel truth on this show, and I look around. Coaching does matter, and people think you can just plug and play. It's just not that easy. And continuity. You've got a team of people keeping a team together. It does matter. It takes years to develop an offensive lineman, and we get all these stolen reps when these guys come and go. Give Cole Kubelik credit for that. When they come in the spring, they get the reps with the ones, then they leave. It matters. Bottom line is college football, it has our interest. We didn't even get to Ken Williamson, the SEC ref that people love so much in Auburn. He'll be getting a lot of Christmas cards. I don't know what's going on, but I know one thing. Officiating, if they didn't make the call, as Chuck Oliver says, it never happened. But if they make the call and they get it wrong, I like to see these referees have to go in after the game like the coaches do and face the press. And the old days used to be an assistant coach from offense and defense had to get on the post-game radio shows. And thank God for the delay system, because some of these fans that were, liquored up, living in their parents' basement or up in their treehouse, they said some things that as Douglas Niedermeyer said, the decorum prohibits me listing these at the moment. But guys, thank you more than for everything that you did. Everybody, executive producer Brendan Martin, we're the most blessed people in the history of the world. Most often we see the face of Christ in the least among us. People love in Nashville. I went out there Monday night. There's so many people that need help, and on the streets and wherever you live, find excuses to win. We'll see y'all tomorrow. Thanks for watching this channel. Have a great day, everybody.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.